I wanted to make this introduction video because I believe that we've been looking at the Bible wrong. And as a result of looking at it wrong, incorrectly, we've caused so much division and so much hate. So many ideologies have been built on a false foundation. Now, I've read lots of ancient scriptures. I've listened to lots of really smart people talk about things that go way over my head, and I'm not claiming to be smarter than any of them. At the time of this recording, I just got done listening to Billy Carson on Joe Rogan, which is something I did not think I'd see anytime soon. But it tells me that the collective is open to a new interpretation of things that we've seen before. Now, before I go any further, I want you to understand who I believe God is. I believe God to be that awareness that you are, that I am presence that occupies all things, that occupies every atom, that makes up every cell within your being. That is God, awareness, consciousness. And how is consciousness experiencing itself? Through all of us. Your awareness that you are is God himself, herself, whatever resonates and feels most comfortable to you. Now, I understand that this book may have a tainted history and that some of the stories in it were crafted from other texts. And I understand that there's been different versions of this text. You can look at things like the Ethiopian Bible. You can look at things, you know that stories were taken from the Epic of Gilgamesh, from different Sumerian texts, from different Vedic texts. You can see derivatives of stories from even the Mahabharata. You can see certain frequencies replaying themselves through this text. And if we're looking at it from a perspective of a potential of a God who's out there, given all that exists within this mind of God that we occupy, then we're looking at it from the wrong lens. And because of our creative potential, what we seek is what we find. From a very early age, I was introduced to the Bible. I was raised on it. I used to teach the Bible to adults. I used to go to competitions. From a very early age, I was introduced to the Bible. I studied the Bible, and like many, I had a perspective of the Bible that was built on the foundations of what I had heard previously. And then I was introduced to things, or things were brought into my awareness that helped to give me a broader perspective. I read things like the Kabbalion, started really looking into those hermetic principles and seeing them playing themselves out everywhere. Started reading things like the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata as a whole, reading things like the Vedas. In fact, I'm recording this video on my physical copy of the Vedas. My phone is sitting on it, and I have my Hebrew Bible in front of me. I looked at all of these texts, and I could see the work of history trying to ensure it wasn't forgotten. And then when you listen to certain speakers who have directed dedicated their lives to pulling those threads and finding the truth about all that has physically taken place in this material realm, you can see how, for better or worse, a lot of these are in actuality historical documents, or a version of history. And when it comes to the Bible, if you're looking at it as a religious text or some type of text that you need to follow, it's very confusing. There's a lot of information in there that seems contradictorial. The version of God that is displayed at different points in the Bible seems almost cruel, hateful. And I, as a kid, I had to question, why is that? And then I ran into Neville Goddard, ran into teachers like Joseph Murray, who learned a different way of reading the Bible, a different way of looking at the symbology of it, and in the case of Neville, experienced a different level of understanding or a different level of awareness that he is God. And when I say this perspective was different, the Neville Goddard perspective of looking at the Bible is not looking at it as a historical document, regardless of whether or not you can find evidence for certain events. It's not that. It's on understanding that the I am of you is God. All right, that's our baseline. Now you understand that the Hermetic principles govern how all things exist. And you can go look at my videos on those Hermetic principles where I'm reading directly from the Kabbalion and giving my commentary. Now, if you understand that everything exists within this alternative space, this mind of God, then we can say that the supreme cause of all things is that I am presence that decided it wanted to observe itself. So if God is the supreme cause of all things, it doesn't matter what an Anunnaki did to chromosome 2. Because the cause, the I am of that Anunnaki is the same God that exists in you. The I am of any extraterrestrial being is the I am of you. Because to a being on another planet, you are extraterrestrial. But the thing that unites you is your consciousness. Every time I get on the roll, the ducks start chirping. There is no power outside of you that is greater than the God within you. But if we succumb to the lies that we've been told about who we are, how we can potentially operate, we'll never grow beyond this level of collective consciousness. And to demonize a book that has held such a dear place in so many people's hearts doesn't seem right to me. I think what's more likely is that that supreme consciousness that governs all that is, even those great light beings who can create things that would make them seem godlike, they still fall under this higher power, that I am that exists in you. And that seems like a bold statement to say about beings who are dimensionally smarter than I could ever be. But what I'm telling you is that in your DNA is written all the history of the stars. And within your consciousness is a capability that you don't even know exists. So this I am, this supreme consciousness, this supreme being that we live in, move in, have our being in, within, call it the all, call it God, whatever you want to call it. God has been so tainted. This isn't lowercase g God, meaning in Anunnaki, something that flies on a spaceship, or even something that can travel interdimensionally, or even something that can phase through light. No. This is the being that existed before the presence of light. A being that created the concept of light. That's who we are. This awareness. That's what we are. And this book, this Bible, I believe, is the plan of redemption. And when I say that, what I mean is, from the very beginning of the Bible, you see parallels to not only the Hermetic principles, but to how we're truly beginning to see things being created. And I recorded my initial or Genesis chapter 1 video before this, so you can go and you can look at that video to see my breakdown of the different days of creation and how it parallels how we create our reality now. I believe that supreme cause chose to pull different things from all these different texts together to give us a guidebook on what the unfoldment is of your return to your awareness that you are God. Each one of these characters in the Neville Goddard perspective is a state of consciousness that you occupy in this dream of good and evil until you return to the awareness that you are God. And when you think about it like that, someone like Noah is not just a historical figure who built an ark. Whether it was a sphere or a boat, it does not matter. It's a state of consciousness. It's a state of consciousness where you receive a message about impending doom. And as a result of that message, you go out and you start to build a safety net. And those who see you building that safety net based on this message that you receive of impending doom, look at you like you're crazy until the calamity strikes. And I'm sure that there's a symbology behind the animals and all of that, but that's just me looking at the mental state of Noah as a state of consciousness rather than simply a character who existed however time, no matter the fact that we can tell a global flood existed. That's not the perspective I'm coming at this from. I'm coming at this from the perspective of I am is God. And this isn't a book about judgment. Because if there's one thing that we all can say now, is that the true God is not judgmental. Unconditional love is the foundation upon which everything is built. And everything has been deemed as good. Meaning all of these mental states, if each character is a mental state, all of these states have been deemed as good. So we look at the fruit of these states at some points in the Bible, and we see the chaos that some of these states can create, and we say, oh, there's no way that this book is right. This is contradictorial information. Or you look at the Psalms, which we don't know all of the true authors. You could say this or you could say that. You look at the Psalms, which are Psalms and Proverbs, which the Psalms itself are spells. Psalm magic is a thing, and I have at times used different psalms to create different things in my life. But if you're not looking at it from a perspective of a book about you, no matter where you are, no matter what job it is that you occupy, I've seen patterns of different frequencies of characters in the Bible play themselves out at different levels in my life at different times. So at times I've been Moses. I've been Isaac. I've been Solomon. I've been Noah. You can see that you've occupied different levels of these states. And now you're occupying one. And whatever state you occupy, you must bear the fruit of that state. You have to bear the fruit of that state. That's the law. An apple tree will bear apples. A pear tree will bear pears. A mango tree will bear mangoes. If you occupy a mental state, you will bear the fruit of that state. This book is a promise that all of these states of God are available to you. All of these states are available to you. And I believe that the plan of redemption is how you overcome these states. Excuse me. The plan of redemption is how you overcome these states to gain a deeper level of awareness of who you are. Now, I'm not claiming to be some super enlightened guru or anything like that. Even with my history with the Bible, I've been attacked for talking about this text. My family mobbed for talking about this text. So coming back to this text is not something that's necessarily easy for me to do. But I believe that me coming back to this text and looking at it from a different perspective is beneficial to you. And I don't want to come on here and regurgitate a bunch of things that other people have said. I don't. I set out on my journey to find the one true God. Whether that was an Anunnaki or whether that was something else, I didn't care. I didn't have a sign of judgment to whatever it was that I saw. I just wanted to know the truth. And my request for the truth showed me the truth. And now that I understand, and I'm coming to greater understandings, and I'm seeking a deeper understanding, it's like this spark has been ignited inside of me, and every day this fire grows. And the more I try to keep it contained, it's like it's driving me insane. So I have to get it. I have to get this out. And it's intimidating to me. This Hebrew Bible I'm looking at, look at this book. And these are just some books of the Bible, not even all of them. I don't even understand why there's a Hebrew Bible for the Old Testament, but nothing for the New. These are all questions that I'll answer. And going through all of these characters, who knows what type of revelations I'll uncover? Who knows how I'll change as I embark on this journey? Who do I become as I'm midway through Deuteronomy, talking about all of these states? I have no idea. Who do you become listening to it and looking at your perspectives and then starting to see through all of the facade to the cause, the supreme cause behind all effects? It doesn't matter who tinkered with our DNA some 200,000 years ago. It doesn't matter who the president is. It doesn't matter what business is doing what country is attacking who. It doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. What matters is truth. And that truth is that the I am of you is God. And if you know that, the level of confidence that you get with that, you don't walk with your head down. You don't allow things to just happen to you. When you realize that the I am of you is God, you don't just take what somebody says at face value. You have a discernment of their spirit, of the state that they occupy, and of the fruit that that state produces. This is a different way of looking at the world, yes. And it's a way of respecting the divinity within everyone. It's a way of healing the world simply by being aware. Because according to Neville, when you see that these are states, you can look at these divine states and you can look at the states that people are occupying now. The collection of divine frequencies that calls itself Sarah or calls itself Bob or Tim. And is producing destructive fruit. You can see that that same I am presence that is you is them. And you can, in your mind, pull them out of that state. I wasn't intending this video to be this long. And I know that I'm going to learn a lot in this. And I'll just be honest, this feels intimidating. I have no guarantee of financing for this. I have no guarantee of support for this. My teachings, my awakening was really, really rough. And it pulled me away from everyone and everything that I know. I've lost jobs just for holding truthful to who I am. Just for walking and being just a little different and trying to show love. So I want to spread as much information about these states as possible. And if I didn't believe this was the truth, I wouldn't do what I'm about to do, which is essentially dedicate the rest of my life to this. But this is what I feel called to do. And I trust the I am of me, that is God, to take care of the rest. I don't edit these videos, so I really hope that you're able to hear all of this. Maybe I'll start editing at some point in time, but I got to get it moving. I have to, because as much as I tried, I can't contain this fire. I love you. I want to see the fullest expression of you. This is the spark.